She was the most photographed woman on Earth, the most desired, the most watched, every smile captured, every laugh recorded, every step followed by 1,000 cameras, and yet nobody truly knew her. Because behind the blonde hair, behind the red lips, behind the voice that made grown men forget their names, Marilyn Monroe was hiding something so dark, so painful, so carefully buried that she carried it every single day of her life and took it to her grave. This is the story nobody told you. The real Marilyn Monroe. Her real name was Norma Jeane Mortensen, born June 1st, 1926, in the charity ward of Los Angeles General Hospital. No father present, no celebration, no welcome into the world, just young mother who was already falling apart, and a baby girl who had no idea what was coming. Her mother was Gladys Pearl Baker, a film cutter at a Hollywood studio, struggling with poverty, struggling with loneliness, and struggling with something far darker, a mental illness that nobody had yet named, but that everyone around her feared. 2 weeks. That is how long Gladys kept her daughter. Just 2 weeks. And then she handed Norma Jeane to strangers, foster parents, Albert and Ida Bolender, and walked away. Norma Jeane was 14 days old. She would spend the next 16 years never knowing what a real home felt like. Here is the secret Hollywood made Marilyn hide. Her mother was alive, very much alive. When Marilyn Monroe became the biggest star on the planet, her studio told the world that her mother was dead, gone, buried, forgotten. It was a lie. Gladys Pearl Baker was not dead. She was institutionalized, diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, living in a mental hospital just miles from where her daughter was becoming a legend. And Marilyn was paying for it. Every month. Quietly. Secretly. While telling the world she was an orphan, she was writing checks to keep her mother alive. Because here is what nobody tells you about Marilyn Monroe. She loved her mother. Desperately. Despite everything. Despite being abandoned at 2 weeks old, despite growing up in foster home after foster home, despite the abuse, the neglect, the loneliness, she still loved her, and she was terrified of her. Because Gladys Baker had paranoid schizophrenia, and Marilyn Monroe lived every single day in fear that the same darkness was coming for her too. The foster homes were not kind to Norma Jeane. She lived with 12 different families. 12. Each one a new beginning. Each one another disappointment. She was passed around like something nobody truly wanted. At the age of 7, her mother briefly took her back. For 1 short year, Norma Jeane had a mother, a home, a chance at something normal. Then in 1934, Gladys suffered a complete mental breakdown. She was institutionalized, and Norma Jeane was returned to the system. She later revealed that during her years in foster care, she was sexually assaulted. She carried that trauma her entire life, never fully healing, never fully trusting, always searching for love in a world that had taught her from birth that she was not worth staying for. At 16 years old, facing another foster home placement, Norma Jeane made a desperate decision. She got married to James Dougherty, a 21-year-old neighbor. Not for love, for survival. And that was just the beginning. Nobody becomes Marilyn Monroe by accident. Norma Jeane Mortensen was created. Carefully, deliberately. She dyed her hair blonde. She studied how to walk, how to talk, how to smile in a way that made the camera fall in love with her. She invented Marilyn Monroe from nothing, and she played that character every single day, because playing a character was safer than being herself. By 1953, Gentlemen prefer blondes made her the biggest star on earth. And the studio was very clear. Keep the mother secret. Tell everyone she is dead. Because a mentally ill mother in 1950s Hollywood was not something America was ready for. So Marilyn lied and smiled and posed and laughed for cameras and went home at night to a woman who was slowly losing her mind while trying desperately not to lose her own. In 1952, a gossip columnist discovered the truth. Gladys Baker was alive, working at a nursing home. The story broke. Marilyn was forced to confess, and Gladys suffered another mental breakdown. Because of the publicity, because the secret that was supposed to protect them both had destroyed everything instead. By the late 1950s, Marilyn Monroe was the most famous woman in the world. 3 marriages, Joe DiMaggio, Arthur Miller, all ending in heartbreak, all playing out in front of the entire world. She couldn't have children. She suffered multiple miscarriages. Each one a private grief, carried behind a public smile. She was dependent on barbiturates, on sleeping pills, on anything that could quiet the darkness inside her head. The same darkness she had watched consume her mother. She saw multiple psychiatrists. She called Dr. Ralph Greenson sometimes twice a day. She was brilliant, funny, deeply intelligent. She read voraciously. She started her own production company at a time when women simply did not do that. She was so much more than the world allowed her to be. But the world only wanted the blonde, the smile, the whisper, and Marilyn gave them what they wanted, even as it was slowly destroying her. And then there were the Kennedys. John F. Kennedy, President of the United States, and his brother, Robert F. Kennedy, Attorney General. On May 19th, 1962, she sang Happy Birthday to President Kennedy at Madison Square Garden. That performance, watched by 15,000 people, was the most electric 3 minutes in American television history. What happened behind closed doors remains debated to this day. But what we know is this. By the summer of 1962, Marilyn Monroe was in crisis. She had been fired from her last film. Something's got to give. She was increasingly dependent on pills. She was isolated. She was frightened. And she had information about powerful men. Information that those powerful men very much did not want made public. On the night of August 4th, 1962, at her home at 12305 5th Helena Drive in Brentwood, Los Angeles, Marilyn Monroe was found unresponsive. She was 36 years old. The official cause of death? Acute barbiturate poisoning. Ruled probable suicide. But to this day, the questions remain. Because on the night she died, Robert Kennedy was in Los Angeles. The FBI had been monitoring her home, and her housekeeper later admitted that the Attorney General had visited Marilyn that very night. What happened in those final hours? We may never know. But what we do know is that the most watched woman in the world died completely alone. Norma Jeane Mortensen, born in a charity ward, abandoned at 2 weeks old, passed between 12 foster families, sexually assaulted as a child, married at 16 out of desperation, hiding her mother's mental illness for decades, terrified every day that the same darkness would take her, carrying secrets about the most powerful men in America, and smiling. Always smiling. For the cameras, for the studios, for a world that worshipped what she looked like and never once asked how she felt. Marilyn Monroe didn't just take secrets to her grave. She took a whole person, a brilliant, complicated, deeply wounded, fiercely resilient person who deserved so much more than the world gave her. And 60 years later, we are still trying to understand her. Because the real Marilyn Monroe was never the blonde bombshell. She was Norma Jeane, the little girl nobody stayed for, who spent her whole life searching for someone who would. Marilyn Monroe died August 4th, 1962. She was 36 years old. Her mother Gladys Baker survived her, living until 1984. Marilyn left her mother a financial inheritance in her will. The full truth of her final hours has never been confirmed. She remains the most recognizable face in Hollywood history. But her real story was always the one nobody told.